Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because today we are unpacking the fascinating and honestly somewhat terrifying dual identity of nitrous oxide. We're pulling our insights directly from a really brilliant 2026 publication in the OOTW Journal. So we're going to look at a molecule that is probably incredibly familiar to anyone who's ever had their wisdom teeth pulled, yet it somehow remains one of the least understood substances in modern medicine. Now think about this for a second. Here is the central paradox we're exploring today. How is it physically possible that the exact same gas, literally the oldest anesthetic in our medical cabinet, can rapidly lift severe, treatment-resistant depression in an hour, yet also possess the capability to completely dismantle a healthy person's spinal cord over a period of months? I mean, it sounds like science fiction, right? But it is pure neuroscience. To wrap our heads around this complex topic efficiently, we'll break it down into 5 quick parts: the laughing gas paradox, how it actually works, the antidepressant promise, the B12 catastrophe, and a shifting legal landscape. Okay, section 1, the laughing gas paradox, a molecule with 2 faces. First synthesized all the way back in 1772, people were actually inhaling this stuff for fun at laughing gas parties, decades before anyone even thought to use it for surgery. Today, it's a bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. On one hand, we've got a drug with a 175-year impeccable safety record in supervised medicine. When it's used in dentistry, emergency procedures, or childbirth as a blend called Entonox, it's incredibly safe. And why is that? Because it is always administered with adequate oxygen and under professional monitoring. But on the other hand, we see the quiet, severe danger of recreational use, where people are inhaling pure gas, zero oxygen, repeatedly from large enclosed tanks. Moving on to section 2. How it actually works, biochemistry and mechanisms. Let's look under the hood for a minute. If you had to pinpoint its primary mechanism, it would be NMDA receptor antagonism. So the NMDA receptor is basically a major gateway in the brain for glutamate, which is our main excitatory neurotransmitter. Nitrous oxide acts as a non-competitive antagonist right there. Essentially, it just dampens down those excitatory signals that normally keep you awake and transmit pain. That's the main engine driving its anesthetic and dissociative effects. But, calling it just an NMDA antagonist is a massive oversimplification. The actual felt experience of nitrous oxide is way more like a complex chord being played on a piano rather than a single chemical note. It triggers the release of your body's own endogenous opioids to block pain. In fact, it does this so much that a drug like naloxone can actually block some of its pain-killing effects. It also gently nudges your GABA-A receptors to calm you down, opens TREC1 potassium channels to sedate the nervous system, and even touches the mesolimbic dopamine pathway, which entirely explains that euphoric reward users feel. Because of its action on those NMDA receptors, nitrous oxide is constantly being compared to its chemical cousin, ketamine. But they operate entirely differently. Nitrous oxide is a gas, it turns on instantly and clears out in seconds, without any real systemic metabolism. Ketamine, on the flip side, is processed by your liver into active compounds, and its dissociative effects linger for hours. So they might start at the exact same NMDA starting line, but they are running totally different metabolic races. Now, you might be wondering, why is it so fast? Well, the answer lies in this highly specific number, 0.47. That is nitrous oxide's extremely low blood gas partition coefficient. In plain English, it means the gas barely has to dissolve in your blood before it completely saturates it. It equilibrates almost instantly. You inhale, boom, the effects hit in seconds. You stop, you exhale it entirely unchanged, and it clears just as fast. This perfectly explains why the recreational high is just a fleeting, compressed burst, and exactly why users are so tempted to just redose over and over again. Let's shift to section 3. The antidepressant promise, investigational hope. This is where the science gets really exciting. Pioneering research out of Washington University has been testing this gas on patients suffering from severe treatment-resistant depression. We're talking about folks who had been depressed for over 17 years on average. In a 2015 trial using a 50% concentration, patients found rapid relief, but they suffered from really high rates of nausea. But look at what happened in the 2021 trial. By just dropping the dose to a gentler 25%, patients experienced comparable, rapid mood relief, but those awful side effects like nausea, they practically disappeared. It completely reframed the whole risk-benefit calculation. Now, I have to pause here. Caveat time. It is absolutely critical to emphasize that this is currently an investigational hypothesis. There is no FDA-approved protocol or prescription for nitrous oxide as an antidepressant right now. The promising signals we're seeing are built on a handful of small studies. It's a hypothesis with incredible momentum, for sure, but it is not a proven therapy yet, and its mood-altering use remains strictly confined to supervised clinical research settings. Okay, we need to take a pretty sharp tone shift for Section 4, the B12 catastrophe, recreational harm. This step-by-step biological cascade elegantly but mercilessly explains the hidden danger here. When it's heavily abused, nitrous oxide irreversibly oxidizes the cobalt atom inside vitamin B12. That oxidation inactivates a crucial enzyme called methionine synthase. Without that enzyme functioning properly, your body simply cannot maintain myelin, which is the protective insulation wrapping around your nerves. Heavy chronic use literally creates a functional B12 deficiency that strips the insulation right off your spinal cord. And the downstream consequence of this B12 catastrophe? It's a spectrum of severe, honestly horrifying neurological injuries. We're talking about subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord. Patients, often really young, otherwise completely healthy people, are presenting in emergency rooms with numbness, extreme weakness, and a staggering, unsteady gait. Sometimes it even mimics an ascending paralysis. And the truly tragic part, while high-dose B12 therapy and quitting the gas completely can help, this nerve damage can sometimes be totally irreversible, leaving young people permanently disabled. Furthermore, the acute, immediate recreational risks are highly physical. Because the gas displaces oxygen in your lungs, inhaling it in confined spaces like a bag over the head or sitting inside a parked car creates a massive risk of hypoxia and asphyxiation. And on top of that, rapidly depressurizing these canisters can cause instant, severe frostbite to the lips, mouth, and airway. To put this modern escalation into perspective, the state of Michigan reported a staggering 4 to 5 times increase in misuse-related poison control calls and EMS responses just between 2019 and 2023. So what changed? Well, the market shifted. Instead of tiny whipped cream chargers, users are now buying massive, cheap, flavored catering tanks, often marketed as Galaxy Gas. You've probably even noticed these large, colorful canisters discarded in local parks or streets recently. These giant tanks make the heavy, repetitive dosing required to destroy your nerves dangerously easy to sustain. Section 5. A shifting legal landscape. Regulatory action. Because nitrous oxide has completely legitimate industrial, culinary, and medical uses, it is not a federally scheduled controlled substance in the U.S. However, regulators are absolutely waking up. Louisiana began restricting sales in 2024. By early 2025, the FDA issued severe consumer alerts, and they eventually updated them to explicitly call out brands like Galaxy Gas. And as we sit here in 2026, a vast majority of states are actively enacting age limits and strict sales restrictions to combat this exact crisis. What used to be a frictionless purchase is quickly becoming highly regulated. So if you take one thing away from our entire explainer today, let it be this. Asking if nitrous oxide is simply safe or dangerous is the wrong question entirely. The only right questions are at what dose, with what oxygen, how often, and under whose supervision. Context. Context and medical oversight are absolutely everything with this molecule. There is a quote from the OOTW Journal that just hits the nail on the head and perfectly summarizes our journey today. All 3 of these statements are absolutely true at the exact same time. It highlights the absolute necessity of holding all these conflicting truths together in our minds without flinching toward total panic and alarmism, but also without allowing total dangerous permissiveness. As we wrap up this explainer, we are left with a massive, really provocative question for the future of neuroscience and law. How will future medicine and regulatory bodies navigate this incredible paradox? Can we successfully harness the life-saving antidepressant promise of this dual-faced molecule while simultaneously shutting down its devastating recreational appeal? It is a tightrope walk of biochemistry and public policy, and it's something we should all be paying very close attention to. Thank you for learning with me today, and keep asking the right questions.